and the administration has pulled the plug on congestion pricing. Unfortunately, that happened on my birthday. What a birthday present that was.
What day?
The 19th. Fortunately, the MTA was ready with a response in the courts and filed it within hours of receiving Sean Duffy's wonderful letter. And it is now before Judge Lyman, which is a good sign because Judge Lyman has ruled favorably in favor of congestion pricing 4 times on various lawsuits brought by various plaintiffs. So that's a good sign. I assume if government loses, they will appeal, which will then go to the Second Circuit, where we have also prevailed. I'm worried if it ends up in the Supreme Court, obviously. But that could be a long, long time away, and the program will easily prove itself as it has in the first months. Yeah. And as far as that goes, ridership is up on the subways and buses. Commuter rails, 250,000 new riders since the beginning of this period. More yellow cab. This is really good for yellow cab operators who've been creamed by the for-hire vehicles. There's more people using yellow cabs since congestion pricing started. So that's a good sign for them. They need help. $48.6 million has been raised since the beginning, which is a net of 37 million after expenses and things of that nature, which is more than the MTA expected for this period. And questions are going to be at the end. 500 million, they estimate, by the end of the year. Hopefully this will go to the end of the year. 68% are passenger vehicles who are paying the congestion fee, private cars. 22% are taxis and for-hire vehicles. 9% are trucks. And like 1% is motorcycles and buses that have exemptions. So or don't have exemptions. So this is really pretty much what the MTA expected would be paying these fees. So that's really good news. We will see what happens. We now have until March 21st is the latest news to stop the cameras. The MTA has already responded that they are not going to do that until a court tells them to do that. It is not clear when this court and Judge Lyman will actually hear the first of what is probably going to be a few lawsuits. But the longer it goes on, the more ammunition we have to show that it's working. I did ask if we have been able to get an environmental reading since, and they said that takes a while because that is variable by weather and locations and all sorts of things. So they are going to work on that, but it is clear that traffic is down at the Holland, Lincoln, Battery tunnels, Queens Midtown Tunnel, and the bridges across the East River. A lot of bad things have been predicted. There have been additional traffic jams on the Gowanus, but that is for people evading the toll and going on a different route, which was expected. There are supposed to be barriers put up along the Cross Bronx Expressway, as well as trees planted to help with any environmental issues raised by additional traffic on the block. So we hope to see evidence of that really soon. Because it's an idea whose time has come. 2 other cities, actually, Boston and Chicago are considering congestion pricing, and LA has even floated the idea of congestion pricing. So we will see what happens. I will take questions on this at the end. I've got to go to other topics, and I think the food has arrived. Wow. Omni machines are being installed in a number of places now on the Upper West Side. 72nd and 96th Street have Omni machines, and I assume since we have so many more stations that this is also happening in other neighborhoods. We want to see Omni machines everywhere.
The West Side, right?
Hold on, Judy.
We're gonna wait till the end, please. I'm sure they are all over the place. I know that there's some in Midtown as well, so they're being installed all over the place. There is a very important pilot that has been tested called Convo, which is very exciting. For people that are deaf or hard of hearing, in various locations, there is going to be a QR code. When you scan that QR code, you will get the location of someone that can do sign language for you and answer any questions you might have. It's a very exciting pilot. It connects with a live interpreter and you get to chat with an MTA employee with hand sign language. And it's really an amazing thing. And it is being conducted at these locations: 161st Street, Yankee Stadium, Atlantic Barclays Center, Times Square, Jackson Heights, Roosevelt Avenue, St. George on the Staten Island Railway, Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn, and on the following commuter rail stations: Babylon, Grand Central Madison, Jamaica, Penn Station, Ronkonkoma, Grand Central, White Plains. All of those places are having this Convo pilot in action, as well as mobile sales centers and buses and vans that are going to be circulating to tell people about this. So this is going to give important information to all those who can't hear announcements and things of that nature. So that's really great. Also, of course, 3 Stone Street is another place you can have this, you can learn about this. Now, there's several really important infrastructure projects that are ongoing right now. Clearly, everybody's aware of the A train diversions while work is going on. The South Channel Bridge is having pieces of it put back together already. I've seen aerial views of it, so it is getting back there. They're doing it right on time. It's great. The Hamel Y, of course, Gary, yeah. The Hamel Y, which is where the two from Rockaway Park and Far Rockaway meet, is being rebuilt. Right now, there is a shuttle train from Far Rockaway to Rockaway Park, which is great. The maps that the MTA are showing don't actually show that route, but there is a route right now that goes from Far Rockaway to Rockaway Park and vice versa. And that's faster than the shuttle bus, should you need to take the shuttle bus. But the shuttle buses going up to Howard Beach and other places are really well attended. Hugo Zamora, who has done was the weekend czar when the G train project was underway and did such a great job, is now working as the weekend czar, well, as the full-time czar for the Rockaway rebuild, which is really important. And it's on schedule for May to come back, and that's really exciting. There are several other infrastructure projects going on. Anyone who has ridden the Long Island Railroad from east of Jamaica into Jamaica sees how you slow to a crawl before you get into the station. They are finally working on and it's a long time coming now, but finally they're working on the Hall interlocking, which is in the vicinity of the old Union Hall Street station, for those that remember that station, which is now just a few barriers and some concrete there. That Hall interlocking is being worked on every weekend and nights, and they're going to get much better speeds. In fact, lots of Long Island Railroad schedules will have to be adjusted once the Hall interlocking is fixed and trains can enter Jamaica at a normal speed. So that's something to look forward to. There are the new Penn access stations. The 4 of them in the Bronx are having lots of work done, and there's some little places where they cross over little rivers, and those bridges have had to be replaced. These tiny little rivers, and I'm not talking about the Bronx River, but there's smaller ones. And Marisol is shaking her head, she knows. All of those are being replaced before Penn access trains can run in there, which is quite something. Yes, a baby girl was born on the W train on February 12th. And all of the people, not only the staff, but passengers came around to help the mother make the delivery, cut the umbilical cord. It was really amazing. For all those that say the subways are unsafe and you don't know who you can trust, all of these passengers and staff got together to help this young person enter the world. And what a great place to enter it as the New York subway system. So the mother and the baby are doing fine. I don't know the name.
Baby W.
Yeah, baby W. Maybe it'll be a Wendy. Who knows? It should be, but we will see. So that was a piece of good news, really. There was a piece of bad news in that somebody has gotten a hold of a way to easy pass scam people who are getting their bills from congestion pricing. I don't know how. I mean, this person should be putting their mind to a much better purpose, because if they have this kind of skill, they should be doing it for a worthwhile thing rather than just, rip people off. But Easy Pass does not send out emails. They're making this very clear. If anybody receives one, it's phony. Don't answer it. Delete. You've gotten one of those?
Text. It's a text.
Oh, my God.
Text.
Text too.
I get-
Unreal.
I don't have an easy pass.
Just unreal. Don't fall for it.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, that's unreal. Then you know it's
My
phony.
mother gets them, yeah.
There has been a 36.4% reduction in crime, which is really good news. More people are riding, that helps. There are more police and they are strolling the trains. It's fine that they're stationed to places, but when they board a train, I've asked, are they strolling through the train? And on the types of train cars that have locked ends, are they going out and going in so that they can really stroll the train? And I was told that they are, and they've certainly been told to do that. So if anybody sees a police officer not strolling on a train and not going from car to car, you should let the office know and get the car number, please. If you can get the officer's badge number or name, that would also be great. But we want this to work. We want people to feel safe. The subway, we're so fortunate to have this system, but we have to make sure that it's safe and we take care of it. The Queens Bus redesign, which you're going to hear about later, is set to go forward in 2 steps, June 29th and August 31st. There are some people who have spoken up vociferously, and I expect they might speak up again today vociferously. We're going to be very nice about it when we talk to Kate and the people representing the MTA. We're going to explain. I did ask the question at the board meeting, once this is in place, can changes be made? And I was told, yes, absolutely. Nothing is cast in stone. They can see how things are working, and if changes need to be made, they can be made. Somebody is making a very good suggestion about the Q30 and serving LaGuardia Airport. We have long said there are many, many Bronx residents who work at LaGuardia Airport, and they should have a direct method of getting there. This bus could be one of those methods. It is not set yet to go to LaGuardia Airport, but we sure hope that's going to be one of the ways. But the redesign is coming. We will learn a lot more of it later in this meeting. And there is a lot, it's $30 million, Frank Anacaro, the head of buses told me. So we said that's a lot more service we're providing. Yes, some stops are going to be removed, but should the bus stop every 2 blocks? They have taken away many local bus stops that were every 2 stops. So in Manhattan even. So we will see what we learned today from the presentation. Obviously, if there's something that is a traffic generator, whether it's a school, a senior home, a hospital or something like that, they're not going to do away with those stops. That would be ludicrous. And I'm not referring to the rap artist either. So they're going to keep those stops. That would not be sensible. Let me tell you that many of you remember the name Tom Prendergast.
Yeah.
He is now head of Gateway. Which is a really, really important project to provide new tunnels under the Hudson and provide a lot more service between New Jersey and New York, and a lot more service from Metro North. There's a lot of talk of through running, and the Gateway Tunnel would be one way of making that happen.
Andrew, you might as well tell the new members who Tom Prendergast is.
Yes, I'm going to. Tom Prendergast was chair of MTA, was a consultant for many years. Lived in Westchester County and said, I cannot imagine my life without being involved in transportation. And he has kept his true word, and he is now the CEO of Gateway. Hopefully, the administration in Washington will not kill Gateway. They have tried before, but the project is underway. Money has been given to make this happen. The two small tunnels that now serve New Jersey Transit and Amtrak were hurt by Superstorm Sandy. Work is going on at various times in the middle of the night and everything. If one of those goes down, service is really going to be disrupted between New York and New Jersey, which it has been endlessly due to the Amtrak not doing something with their catenary between New York and Newark. It's sort of ironic. They can keep the catenary 450 miles of the catenary between Washington and Boston operating, but the 10 miles between Penn Station and Newark, they can't. What's wrong with that picture? And this morning, again, a New Jersey Transit train broke down and blocked one of those tunnels. So you see why we need Gateway. We really need it badly. So Tom, I sent him a congrats note and he thanked me, and we might want to have him at some point speak to the PCAC, because this will definitely impact Metro North, Long Island, and transit riders, because the gateway tunnels are that important. So keep posted on that. Right now, 20,000 workers are working on Gateway. When all the contracts are awarded, 100,000 people are going to be working on Gateway. So you don't just take that away lightly. That is an important, important project. There was a new president of the TWU, John Chiarello. I do not know the gentleman, but I do know that his famous quote is, "We will take no crap from management." That is what he is known as saying. So that's a way to start, I guess. So we will see how he comes. Obviously, the workers are very important. There are now cubicles for the bus operators. We're going to get bulletproof ones that they have tested on SEPTA in Philadelphia and are working. They have actually tested them against real bullets. Only one bullet was able to penetrate it, and it stopped the momentum, so that if somebody actually got hit by it, it would have just been a bruise as opposed to a really serious thing. And I'm sure TW Local 100 would like that for all our bus operators. If you're working for this amazing system, you should not be in danger. It's that simple. So we're going to see how that pilot works in SEPTA.
Sure.
Sorry?
Carl said that, I think Andrew meant Q50, not Q30.
Oh, 250. Okay.
I was like,
Might be my mistake. Whatever that bus is, that we want to see that stop at LaGuardia. Thank you, Carl. Metro North is going to be running the first in the nation battery and electric powered locomotives. It's going to operate on the new Penn Access line along the New Haven route, which is obviously catenary. And it will be battery powered. Well, it's on Amtrak's route, so it'll run all the way on catenary, or for most of it. But these locomotives are going to be used elsewhere on Metro North. It's very exciting. I don't know what the mileage capability of these when they're on battery power is. There was so much going on, I did not get to ask that question. But this is quite something. These locomotives are definitely for the Penn Access route, but they can be used on other parts of Metro North. And of course, as everybody has now heard, Kathy Rinaldi is retiring. Yesterday was her last MTA board meeting. She has been president of Metro North for 7 years. She was president of both railroads, if you can imagine that, for 2 years. She was president of Long Island Railroad for a while. She was general counsel of the MTA. She has been here 20 some odd years. She has brought Metro North's on-time performance up to 98%. She has been very vocal in the importance of resiliency, especially for the Hudson line, which has seen the river come up on the tracks and mudslides come down from various communities on the Hudson waterfront. So Kathy has done amazing work here. She will certainly be missed. Justin Vanashek will be her replacement at Metro North, and he will be taking over in March. So, you know, hats off for an amazing job. Well done to Kathy Rinaldi. Everybody knows Kathy, and I believe while she may be retiring from the MTA, I believe she may be doing something else after. I don't think she's just going to sit home, right, Kalia? No.
Justin is acting.
Yes, Justin will be acting president in the first. But he certainly knows his stuff too. I've seen Justin at work. So there's that. There are some very important capital plan initiatives that I want to just mention. I was fortunate, me, Randy, and Jerry got a look at the new number 7 line passageway, 7 platform at Grand Central up to the main mezzanine at Grand Central. We saw it when it was under construction. We were walking through little holes. There were unbelievable amounts of work that had to be blasted to get through to this thing. It's done. I went to see it yesterday, 2 days ago, actually. It is amazing how they pushed through, you know, sheetrock and Manhattan schist and everything to get this thing done. It's an amazing escalator up to the top level. It does take you to the mezzanine level, which you then would have to go down steps to get to the 4, 5, and 6. So it's just beautiful. If you're in Grand Central, take a walk and look at this passageway. The steps are the first steps west of the 3rd Avenue end of the station. So walk that half the platform, you'll see the first set of stairs will take you up to this new passageway. It's amazing. It's a beautiful job. Now, something else that they've done, which is very important, is the recent transformation of the Woodhaven Boulevard J and Z station to make it accessible. It's the first time elevators go from the street level all the way to the platform.
Yeah.
And don't have to stop at the mezzanine. You don't have to change elevators. And we heard from President Tara Springer of MTA Construction and Development. This is what they want to do at a lot more elevated stations. They don't want to make people have to change elevators. They also want to, they're doing this on many projects. They're combining projects so they can get cheaper per station. And contractors like this, they can do 3 at once and they can get more done more cheaply. The parts come in cheaper because you're doing them in 3 or 4 different places at once. And contractors like it and the job gets done more quickly. And I hope to see more stations with, street to platform elevators. That's also fewer things that go wrong.
That's getting stuck.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just so great that they're doing that. And another piece of news is that Fairfares is now on Omni. If you apply for Fairfares, you're going to be getting it on Omni, no longer on MetroCard. So Omni is really getting integrated into everybody's life now. It's on student MetroCards. It's on seniors who've been given them by mail. The machines are getting put in all over the place, and now it is on Fairfares. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I think that was a lot.
A question about. I think.
Hold on, let's raise hands and Sharon actually had her hand up very first.
But Sharon's eating.
I got answered, but I have another one, which is when will we get on these?
Oh, we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The employees haven't even gotten them yet either. So I keep asking. It's getting closer, for sure. It's getting closer. Kalia.
Just had a question because, I have high school students are complaining about their Omni cards, about the material not lasting or not even.
Can we save that for new business?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Trudy?
Yeah, I love your optimism, Andrew, about congestion pricing, and what's happening, but from my vantage point, and for those of you who are new on this, I wear another hat where I do a lot of political and governmental stuff on my own. So just so, and I get, people call me and let me know things. And when they sent the letter after announcing that congestion pricing, and we said we didn't get anything, we meaning the MTA and the governor said, saying that they hadn't seen, that's when they sent the second letter and gave a firm date. From all that I've been told, whatever courts that it goes to, I mean, unless, Andrew, unless you have heard something more than I have, that 21st, they absolutely, they named a date and they said they want to do it. I would suggest that maybe just so that we go on record, that we send or make some kind of a statement about, how terrible, how good congestion pricing now is, and that we hope, or we will do everything we can. We as the group, and I don't know if it should be a TRC or if it should be the whole PCAC, but time is of the essence.
So we've done that in our testimony. We've done that in our interviews. We've done.
No, I know, Lisa,
And we did a statement.
no, well, could we see copies of it because
Well, it's on the website, but we can also share that with you. Sure, we'll send that around.
Does it make sense? Does it make sense to put out a press release in response to
done
this
that.
March 21st business, which is
Yeah,
really recent?
that's something new, the absolute firm date. And it wouldn't hurt.
We put out a response on social media for those.
No, but let me tell you, there are a lot of people who don't use social media or who do, and especially people who, like me, okay, but there are a lot of people like me. Could we put out a written statement I don't know, if you don't want to.
Why don't we share with you what we put out and then see if that's,
We didn't put out anything about the 21st, did we?
it's
That's
all
wrapped
sort of wrapped up. It's all like.
No, but that is,
Can we take this? All right, so I'm just gonna say our guests are all here and they're ready. Can we,
you don't want to do it?
Yes, I forgot it.
conversation
Yeah.
after they're done?
Absolutely.
Okay, I put, writing down, continuing conversation.
My hand was next after that, so later.
Karen was first and then Christopher.
I agree.
But Trudy is still, we're still having.
We're still
Trudy's
on, yes.
conversation. Writing this
So
down.
I said, I will wait until afterwards.
Right, we all are. Thank you. Okay.
On the list.
So we're
Yep.
moving
Everybody.
on to our
Yep.
guest
Thank you.
speakers. Kate, thank you for doing this today. And obviously, since the start date is coming in June, end of June, I guess, was the first date. Yeah.
June 29th.
Yeah. We want to hear about the Queens Bus redesign. So who do we have for our
Great.
speaker?
And I just want to say
Thank you.
before, for anybody who just joined us or who joined us after I said this, we're going to have the presentation first and then questions after. And it will be members first. And then if we have time, then we're going to take it from the public. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. So most of you know me, but I hear there's some new members in the room today. So I'm Kate Contino. I'm a director of special projects and strategic initiatives in government and community relations. And aside from joining you monthly for the PCAC TRC meetings, I also work with the redesign teams across the city on customer engagement and outreach. What we're presenting today is a board approved, as Andrew mentioned at the top. This was voted on January 29th. Implementation has begun. The first wave of changes will take place June 29th, the second August 31st, and we'll have more about implementation timeline at the end of the presentation. And just a reminder to folks in the room, it's really hard to hear you on the Zoom when you talk over each other. So we want to make sure that we use our time expeditiously. And then lastly, Andre, are you screen sharing?
Yep.
Okay, Andre is already screen sharing. Great. So I'm joined by 3 members of our operations planning team. Rick Hyduk, who's the project manager for Queens Redesign, and Andre Pergov is on the team. And then we're also joined by Mariah Richardson, who has a specialty in looking at the bus data and analysis as it pertains to equity within the department. So I'm going to hand it over to them for the rest of the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Andre Prigov. I'm a senior transportation planner on the Queens Bus Network redesign team, and we're excited to present this project to you that has already had MTA approval, as Kate had mentioned. This is the Queens Bus Network redesign. The first question, of course, is, why are we redesigning the Queens Bus Network? Well, the Queens Bus Network has not been substantially changed in the last several decades. As a result of not making any changes to the network, buses have become less reliable and riders have seen increased wait times. And since there are over 800,000 daily riders in Queens, it's time for us to take a fresh look at how bus service is provided and whether improvements can be made to enhance service for these riders, to make sure that the buses go to new areas of development, new population centers, new institutions. It was critical for us to take the study on. This study has been a long time coming. We started this project in April 2019, and since then we've conducted an extensive amount of data analysis and public outreach, and through which we've developed a series of different plans, all of which were based on our existing conditions report. The first draft plan was published in fall 2019. Then we had a big pause for COVID. And when we came back to the public with a new and improved new draft plan, which was then, again, we had another round of public outreach for, and we used that to develop the proposed final plan, which released in the end of 2023. And finally, based on the last, based on another round of community outreach, we developed the proposed final plan addendum, which is the one that we took to the MTA board last month. And it's this plan that's really guiding the implementation for summer 2025. We're going to have the implementation be done in 2 separate phases. Phase 1 will start on June 29th, as we had mentioned, and phase 2 will be done in August 31st. After the implementation period is over, we're going to conduct a post-implementation analysis, which will be expected to release sometime next year. With that, how did we redesign the bus network? We focused on 4 different priorities. We wanted to improve the reliability of service. We wanted to make service faster for our riders, and we wanted to improve the connections that they have today. And we wanted to make sure that to simplify the network and make it easier for folks to understand which bus line goes where. With these 4 rider priorities, we developed 7 strategies: improving route design, enhancing connectivity, improving frequency, balancing out the bus stops, expanding bus priority with New York City DOT, improving transit equity, and improving accessibility. A bit more about equity. To give everyone a sense of what we did, here is a couple of maps that we developed for our existing conditions report, and this is basically the starting point for how we started to analyze Queens demographic information. We looked at race, we looked at ethnicity, we looked at the senior and disabled population, we looked at income, population of riders that own a car, those who commute to work via bus or public transit in general, and we gathered all these different data sets together to better understand the needs of the Queens bus riders. And that information was used again throughout the entirety of the project. To ensure that our proposals aligned with the commitment to equitable access to transportation, we conducted the equity evaluation, which analyzed the investment, potential improvements, and benefits of the Queens bus network redesign on communities across our service area. Throughout this entire process, we were also looking at the equity framework, which was developed by the agency and has been publicly shared in the CND 20-year needs report. This evaluation is consistent with the entirety of the MTA, and it develops on the requirements of Title VI. Title VI only focuses on race, income, and ethnicity, and to that we've added a couple of different other indicators that we felt were important for us to get a better sense of the network. With those, we were able to generate a equity score index, and this index assigns equity scores to different geographies, allowing us to understand the differences between the existing and the proposed Queens bus network. The equity scores were categorized into 3 distinct tiers to prioritize considerations based on the level of equity impact. Tier 1 census tracts are those that are areas where the population is significantly transit dependent. These are historically underserved communities and are those facing systemic inequities where those are the most concentrated and the most targeted for critical need for improvements. Tier 2 and Tier 3 basically follow from Tier 1, and Tier 2 and Tier 1 together are correspond to Title VI census tracts and Title VI areas of need, versus Tier 3, it's of lower equity consideration, but those concerns are still urgent, and we'll share data later in the presentation, just giving an analysis, a preliminary analysis of where our proposed network fits into these tier groups. As part of the proposed final plan public outreach, we participated in 5 open houses, gave 22 community board presentations, we had 22 stakeholder meetings, and we conducted 18 pop-up events, and we had 1 public hearing. We also had a town hall, a virtual town hall last year, right before the board vote. As part of the proposed final plan addendum comments, we had received over 3,000 of them, particularly concerning routes like the Q110, the Q10, the Q75, and the Q31. And I'll get into a little bit more about how we address those concerns. And as a result of all the feedback that we had received for the proposed final plan, we had developed the proposed final plan addendum. Many of the changes that were previously proposed in the proposed final plan remain, but the adjustments made in the addendum are direct results of our engagement with the community. We have developed our proposed new network, which will have 124 total routes, including 94 local routes and 30 express routes. And To get into some more specifics, there are 36 major changes to routing with 13 minor changes. There have been 17 increases in frequencies, with 29 routes having reallocated or decreased frequencies. 8 routes will see increased service spans, and there will be 32 route type changes, including creating the new rush routes, which we're very excited about, and we're happy to talk through later in the presentation. Some of the changes that we've made between the proposed final plan to the proposed final plan addendum include the Q10. This is in South Ozone Park. We've restored the Q10 local as the Q10 rush, meaning that customers along 130th Street here would be able to see, they would have faster travel along Lefferts Boulevard for a quicker connection to the subway and to the Long Island Railroad at Kew Gardens. We also relabeled the Q10 Limited as the Q80 Limited, which will provide service similar to the Q10 Limited branch today. And this would maintain existing access to JFK Airport, but with the increased service spans of the new Q80. Right now, the Q10 Limited, which runs down to JFK Airport, is not overnight. We're proposing to make that service overnight. We also returned, in this instance, the Q9 and the Q37 to their existing southern terminals. Let's look at the changes to the addendum in Astoria and Long Island City. Due to the feedback that we received from Rosewood Island residents, we decided to restore the existing Q102 service to Queens Plaza, but with a more direct routing. We withdrew our proposed Q105, which had traveled along 31st Street, and brought back the Q100, which we received significant community interest in. But at the same time, we maintained our V62 extension to Astoria. From V62 runs from downtown Brooklyn to Long Island City today. Now it's going to run from downtown Brooklyn all the way up to Astoria, to the Astoria houses, hitting Queensbridge, hitting Ravenswood, and hitting the Astoria houses along the way. The Q101 service to Hunters Point also remained in this plan, as did the Q103 alignment along 21st Street. In Floral Park, we received significant concerns from the residents of the village about the Q110 going inside the village to the Long Island Railroad station there. So we brought it back to Jamaica Avenue. And the existing Q86 terminal the Q86 routing was changed slightly in Rosedale to serve Brookdale Boulevard and 149th Avenue, again, based on community outreach and concern about the roads in that area. There was also significant feedback for route extensions in the Rockaways. The Q22 will now have limited number of trips going to Bayswater, a neighborhood that we had not served since the late 2000s. The Q52 SPS will also be extended to Edgemere in the addendum, and the Q113 would be restored to provide service between Far Rockaway and Jamaica. In College Point, the addendum will swap the Q76 and the Q20 to maintain the 20th Avenue connections, and we're going to maintain the Q65 and the Q26 swap in the area to improve operations and reliability on both those routes. We'd also like to highlight the proposed changes impacting QCC and Bayside. This is one of the changes that we're really excited about. We're providing a new service between Forest Hills and QCC, which is going to be called the Q74. And we've also split one of the branches of the Q30 into the Q75, which will also provide more faster and more reliable service for riders going from Jamaica to QCC. The Q31 was also realigned in this instance to serve Bell Boulevard from 48th Avenue to 23rd Avenue. As discussed previously, there was some requests to retain the connection from Rockaway Boulevard on the Q10 to the addendum and maintain the existing local Q10 connection to JFK and add the new 24/7 Q80 Lefferts Boulevard Limited to JFK. We also made a few changes to the routes serving LaGuardia Airport. The northern terminals of the Q33 and the Q47 were swapped for better reliability and faster travel to the airport. So now Terminal A of LaGuardia will be served by the Q33, which provided a straight shot from Jackson Heights Station. And we've also rebranded partially the existing Q48 service from Flushing to LaGuardia Airport as the Q90, but the service will be streamlined in East Elmhurst and provide faster connections to Flushing, as well as new connections to the Willis Point development that's currently getting off the ground. There's also a few changes to the express network. Due to a community interest, we've revised the routing of the Queens-bound QM11, and we've also restored partially service on Metropolitan Avenue on the QM12 and the QM42. There's a few, just kind of to give a sense of what is going to be changing in this plan starting the summer. We're only going to be focusing on the stops in Queens for the most part, but there's a few changes in other boroughs that will either be made with the Brooklyn bus network redesign, or select changes might be done in Brooklyn for select routes. And we don't have to go into the specifics here, but just wanted to give a sense, give folks a sense of what's happening where. With all these changes that we've made from our proposed final plan to our proposed final plan addendum, our preliminary equity report indicated that there was be a 5% increase in the amount of the total population served by the all-day frequent network. As a recap, the all-day frequent network corresponds to service to a route having 10 minutes or better service between 6 in the morning to 7 in the evening. So there will be now a 5% increase in the percentage of riders in Queens who have access to a 10 minutes or better route next to their homes. We also looked at the overnight network coverage. That was very important for us, and we found that there would be a 3% increase in coverage for the overnight network in Queens, which is already fairly robust, and we would then allow better access for folks who are traveling overnight, particularly in priority areas like the Q23 in Corona and the Q50 going from the Bronx into Flushing. And with that, I'll pass it off to Kate to talk a bit about next steps and what we plan to see this summer. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so as we mentioned at the top, there are 2 phases of implementation. These are aligned with our regular seasonal picks for summer and fall, but they both technically fall in the summer this year. The first one will be June 29th, and the second one will be August 31st. We have begun with our bus stop panel changes in the real world, and these green Hey Queen signs are being installed in guide-a-ride boxes across the city, and we'll continue to ramp up both digital, print, and in-person outreach as we approach each of the go-live dates, including pop-up events and our customer ambassador program, which you've seen from the MTA for past major campaigns, as well as other types of briefings and outreach. And that, I believe, is what we've prepared today. So I'll hand the floor back to Lisa.
Thank you, Kate. As a Queens resident, I'm looking forward to having more access to buses. Andrew?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions, if I could. Is some of the idea here to get people in transit deserts to either a commuter rail stop or a subway stop? Is that the basis for a lot of these changes that are being made? Or to make the route faster as if you're just staying on a bus?
It's a bit of both, but just to the first point, maybe I have a slide that could better explain this. Maybe we could look at this route here. As part of our plans for the Queens Bus Network redesign, we've introduced a new route type called the Rush Route. That's the one indicated in purple here. How the Rush Route works is that it makes local stops further away from transit hubs like Jamaica, like Forest Hills, like Flushing, and then it makes express-like stops closer to those terminals. So for the folks who live further away, who live in these transit deserts where there's not that much transit service today, they would have a faster ride all day. We kind of do something similar today with the limited service. The problem with the limited service routes that we have today in Queens is that much of that limited service is only during peak times. But going forward, this Rush Route will provide rush-like service for folks not only during peak times, but also in the midday, in the late evening, on weekends, when they're trying to get to places where that might be difficult for them to get to. So in this instance, for instance, the Q30 and the Q75, the ones in purple, those are the rush routes, and they're both coming from Jamaica. And for the folks who live on Horace Harding Expressway or further in Little Neck, they would see local stops along those segments of Horace Harding Expressway, but then they would see express-like stops along Utopia Parkway going into Jamaica, getting them a faster ride to Jamaica and to the Long Island Railroad, to other bus lines there, to the train, of course.
Thank you for that. Are the rush routes going to be represented in a different way on the front of the bus or on the bus stops, or just the same as the regular local buses?
They'll say rush in both locations on the signage and on the head sign.
People will be able to notice that a rush bus is coming by the destination sign. It will say rush and then Q75 or Q30 rush, and people will be able to notice it's coming and be prepared to board in advance, like they do with like limited or select bus service.
Great.
Thank you. I know Chris had his hand raised and Sharon, but I have a question. Are there any plans that are in place that we can count on for bus lanes or, other bus mitigation measures that will speed buses up further along any of the major corridors currently in such a place that we can seriously anticipate them happening?
So a lot of the SIPs for Queens have already been installed because this project has drawn on a bit longer than expected, right? While we've been working on the Queens redesign, double busways have gone in Jamaica, 21st Street has been converted. And then this year we expect the Hillside Avenue project to progress as well. So those, and the next round of SIPs would be for 2026. There were some more routes identified in the earlier planning documents that are still on the list, but Hillside is the most imminent.
Thank you, because I know that that's out of your hands. So I tried to frame it that way.
Of course.
Christopher and then Sharon.
First of all, as I'm looking at the excuse me, the redesign plan, I'm glad to see that we're all linking them to subway stations, railroad stations. But there is one question, and this has been brought up to my attention. As you've seen, some bus stops still has the old signs from the 80s and 90s. Are we communicating like that, communicating with the DOT to let them know to update bus signages? And
yeah,
and the other part question is, are we communicating with DOT accessibility?
yeah, there's multiple points of contact between our teams and theirs. But yeah, that's what I meant at the top when I said the work orders have already been transmitted. Like DOT has the work they need to do. They've had it for a while. It became formalized after our board vote. A lot of it will be updating signage in the field. Did we show the slide about the order of change, or is that something we can? That wasn't in here, right, Andre?
It wasn't in this one. No.
Okay, I can follow up with some stats on the work that's being done with DOT in a slide later with the staff. But yeah, and like in terms of accessibility, one of the things we did in our bus stop evaluation was make sure that when we were choosing, we're choosing the accessible stop. If we were relocating, that those points of connection were taken into account. And this plan does actually shift a number of stops to improve the accessible path from either the bus to subway or bus to rail.
Thank you.
I'd also add that many of the routes have more access to accessible subway stations now after reroutes. So that was a big priority as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
The Q28 in Queens serves Bayside High School. And when it leaves Flushing at from 7 to 9 in the morning, stops, pick up all the students. And then the rest of the day, it's just regular passengers. How do you take that into account? Is that scheduling? Do you do a rush bus? Or is there any accommodation for that?
So I think you're asking about school trips. Rick, do you want to explain how those work and how they were preserved in the plan?
So yeah, we maintain existing school trips so that they would not be adjusted. Those are special trips that around school time, either before school or after school, to provide extra bus service directly to certain schools that maybe are off route or just need a little extra service to account for the increased ridership during those times. Those are maintained in the plan and have not been changed. In regards to other locations, when it comes to there have been some adjustments to certain routings, but many of the school trips still remain as a part of that.
Karen? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. There were two things that struck me. Well, one in particular is you mentioned that there were the same number of express buses as before. And I know there were areas in Southeast Queens where we talked about there were very few and they only ran during rush hour. And we thought we would have seen either additional times or an additional route. And I was wondering what was the result.
Sure. So there is one new express route, the Q65 from Laurelton to Manhattan. And there is one rush route that is being retired, the QM3, which has the lowest ridership of any rush route in Queens and almost directly parallels the railroad. But so a little table setting on this. Express bus service is the most expensive service New York City Transit provides. It is compensated at like 50% more, the average trip for a local bus customer is in the single digits. The average trip for an express bus customer can be $35 to $75 in terms of subsidy. It's a lot of money. And it's considered a luxury service. While it's necessary, especially in Queens, absolutely necessary to get people where they need to go certain times a day, when it came down to the final assessment, most of the investment here is going to be in the local services because that's where the customer base is. And that's where the needs were highlighted in terms of what is and isn't being provided. But the best thing about bus service is that if the new redesign results in increased ridership, adding frequencies, especially during shoulder periods or off-peak, is absolutely something that we can do. And the way people can help us with that is by voting with their swipe that they want the service and using it more.
Right. Well, it becomes a chicken or the egg issue. When it's not there, then people look for other ways. I know because
they're all there. The
Right.
reductions that you might have read about is like one trip each peak reduced, but there's no way of really capturing that in big data. But for the most part, the express services are largely as they are today. There's been some streamlining in Manhattan based off of customer requests. And all of the routes have been preserved, which is more than we'd originally planned to do. Except
Right.
the key.
Okay, so just an aside, I would just say that I've lived in Kew Garden Hills. I've lived different places that I've lived in Southeast Jamaica. And I just can tell you the difference in express bus service as well as other bus service. So even the areas that are underserved, even when it comes to these solutions, they're still getting less. The other thing was about the connections to the railroad. There's an area in, I guess, Lawton, Springfield Gardens, that's closer to Francis Lewis. So like, say for instance, you go, where the Q84 bus is at, terminates or begins at Lawton Parkway, 238th. If you live going towards Francis Lewis and you keep going, there's like an area that's not served well by bus, especially if you are south of the cemetery. And we had talked about whether or not there would be a continuation of a bus going down Francis Lewis Boulevard to continue over to the other side and maybe to get people closer to a railroad or to other buses. And there are other areas like that that just came to mind because that's close to where I live. And so I understand that you will continue to tweak. Those areas are still not well served by any transit.
And sadly, the Springfield Gardens Long Island Station was torn down.
Right, so just a reminder. I know you're working on it, so just a reminder that hasn't been addressed.
It's a fair point, and it's something that we'll continue to tweak for future iterations of this plan. One thing that might be a consolation is that we are improving service on Merrick Boulevard. There will be a slight increase in the amount of buses that are traveling on Merrick. So for folks who live in this area here underneath Montefiore, they would be able to have much better service than they do today. And speaking to the rush route component, there will be 2 rush routes that would provide service for folks in this area, the new Q86 and the new Q87, both of which would run all day and provide rush service, not just during peak times, but also during the day and weekend as well. So for folks trying to make it to Jamaica or to any or other destinations in the city, they would have hopefully a faster and more reliable ride.
And also, Merrick Boulevard has those bus lanes on them as well. So it will be a rush route. So it's going to have less stops on Merrick Boulevard, but we'll also be able to use those bus lanes that are in existence.
Have they been extended? Because don't they end at Springfield?
They will be on where they are right now on Merrick Boulevard, mainly the corridor portion where most of the routes with the Q5 is.
Stuart?
Yeah, two quick things. You just, in the interactive map, show us the change with the 110 route. What happened? I just want to be clear on what, it's saying you swapped terminals, the 36 terminal is now the 110 terminal. But if I'm reading the presentation correctly, you're saying that the residents in Nassau County and the village didn't want the bus to go one additional block to the station. Is that what we're talking about?
The entire leadership of Floral Park came out to tell us that we couldn't run a bus in their town without all the proper paperwork. But moreover, when we ran the test bus, the street infrastructure was not where we needed it to be for reliable service. So it's going to stay where the current terminal is, which is 1 short block from the station.
But it's a different bus. It'll be the 110, not the 36, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And how many passengers per day are we estimating that are impacted by this?
Because Floral Park's in Nassau, you don't get the city ticket.
I guess the impact might not be, the 110 is taking over from the Q36 short trips that end here today. But it's roughly providing a similar service. It's getting folks to Jamaica. So it would basically kind of be a 1-for-1 replacement for most riders.
No, what I'm saying, the idea was that they'd have a shorter distance to get onto a railroad train.
Right,
but I'm saying,
to Andrew's point, a lot of the customers trying to get to the railroad are going to go the extra distance to get to the city ticket station.
Right, the city ticket.
Okay. Do we have an idea of how many people we're talking about?
I don't have that today. Projections are not really part of this process. Rider projections are a whole different set of analysis and team members within operations planning under Jay Krantz. But we have done the analysis for service and accessibility, and everything here exceeds minimum standards by a long margin.
Okay.
Right, the second and final point is in the earlier session when you gave us the initial presentation, I had asked about someone coming from the Rockaway being able to get to Jamaica. Could you just pull up the interactive map with?
Lord. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Lord.
Yeah, no, not.
Bring a book.
If we went over the.
The blue one?
So importantly, the Rockaway shutdown will be finished about a month.
Talking about that.
We've gotten it a lot. So just for the group awareness, since we talked about Rockaway, that project will be done before Queens starts. We would never do that to people, and we need those buses. But please continue with your access question.
No, but if you were taking a bus, not a train, and the A train or the trains that go to the Rockaway Peninsula don't go to Jamaica. If you're taking the bus up that way, or any of the changes that were made in the addendum impacting in any way the ability to get from there to Jamaica.
One thing I would like to highlight is that we extended the Q22 to the Long Island Railroad at in Far Rockaway, so more people will have access to that city ticket that you had been talking about.
You go this way, but
Right.
through Nassau, I guess.
Oh, too
Right.
far Rockaway ticket, that's a
To
special
get to
ticket,
Jamaica.
yeah.
Right. So I just want to highlight that as
Which is
people will
faster.
have more access to Long
That's
Island
cool.
Railroad from the peninsula. Q22 runs all the way, will run all the way from Beach 116th Street all the way over to Far Rockaway. So if people did want to access that, they could use the Q22 to get to Far Rockaway Station to
That's
access
goodbye.
Jamaica. But then I'd also
Make it a
highlight
project.
that as a part of the we brought back the Q113, which we had initially removed as in the proposed final plan. We brought that back. That's an existing service, and the Q114 is now going to be a rush service. So we are trying to expedite travel for residents that need to access Jamaica.
So that maybe that's the way we market it, but just again, just for clarity, so along Woodhaven Boulevard, none of the new changes impact your ability to get from the Rockaway Peninsula to Jamaica.
Along Woodhaven Boulevard, it's the existing Q52, 53 SBS, right? And that already has bus lanes, that has built-in infrastructure, a lot of center running bus stops in the more express portions. Sorry, did you have another question?
You're still have to transfer for an Eastern traveling bus. There's
Yeah,
nothing
you-
new. Nothing
Yeah,
new.
you correct.
Okay. Thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna just put in a plug for City Ticket Weekly for the transfer to Far Rockaway from the bus, so. Is there any plans to do an express lane for the airport access to LaGuardia as the, we're gonna just call it a train to the plane, but it's gonna be a bus train to the plane?
There's preliminary discussion with Port Authority, and they have a couple of ideas about what they would want to do with the Q70 service. And that's a discussion between MTA, DOT, Port Authority, but it's really nascent for now.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right, so we've got a hard stop. I see Jason has his hand raised. Carl Pereira had something in the chat also that he had before. Sorry, Jason, before you did, which is it's Q90 with Q50. Oh, Carl's raising the option or the opportunity for a three-legged transfer for the Q90 and the Q50 and between all routes at, that's more of a fair policy.
Right, and we're working on the policy in terms of what is accomplishable with Omni and what we'll need to live with for the last few months of MetroCard.
Okay.
But in terms of what we're working towards is that if there was a transfer introduced due to the redesign, the customer should not have to pay the additional fare. And that is winding its way through the various departments that have to do the policy and the technological work to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. And then, okay, so, okay, clear quick, Jason, and then that's it.
Hi, Kate, the transit bureau here. Two quick things.
They've got 2 minutes before they have.
I'm very concerned regarding the traffic at Main Street between basically Northern Boulevard South. And regarding the Q50 and 90. For me, it's a big mistake ending it where it is. And why you guys throw back the idea of extending it to LaGuardia Airport? Because there's a franchising people that are coming from the Bronx.
So we addressed this directly in the addendum, and I'll drop a link into the chat. It creates a trip that is really long and therefore becomes very unreliable. And when choosing where to spend the few buses we had to expand the fleet, this is what something we chose to do. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It's just something that is not within the envelope of the $34 million recurrent investment and the number of buses we had to give to the Queens redesign this year. And therefore we made the other proposal to help people make the rest of the trip to and from LaGuardia as quickly as possible.
Because my point is, if LaGuardia has not SBS well, it doesn't sound fair to me that JFK doesn't have it. because my plan was to have the Q10.
Okay, those are not
But
really
it's-
related, Jason. The what we
Yeah.
provide to the properties is very much dictated by Port Authority giving us space or not,
Yeah.
which we talked about, and not something that's going to change between now and implementation. But it's something
And
that we
my-
continue to
hold
push
on.
for, but it's not going to change this year. They're
Okay,
giving us
so-
the space they're giving us, and that's it.
Right, all right, sorry, Jason. Kalia's got the last word here, and then we've got to let our guests go.
Hi.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question about the 62. I know for a long time, it was split up from Red Hook. The customers complained. Are you concerned with the extension that you're gonna have customers complaining that it's gonna take a very long time in travel?
So this is one that we think folks are going to really like, and it is a local bus. It does have a lot of stops, but that's kind of the point of it. It connects a lot of places that have no other option. And then what we've done so far and will continue to do is add bus priority to different segments of the route.
It doesn't go to Red Hook.
Thank you.
I would also.
Go ahead, Rick.
I would also add, the Brooklyn team is going to be looking at bus stops and routing on the B62 within Brooklyn, but that's a separate project. So right now we're just doing the extension, and we looked at the bus stops in Queens, but of course, Brooklyn residents have a right to have an opinion and a say on how the buses change within Brooklyn. So that's why the Brooklyn segment is going to be changed with Brooklyn Bus Network redesign. And my colleagues on the Brooklyn team are actively involved in that with Kate, of course.
So you guys are working together for that?
Of course, yeah.
And
And
you
that's
can-
mostly true for any of our Queens routes that go into Brooklyn, unless it's specifically called out in the plan materials, which I dropped in the chat. Those Brooklyn changes will be further vetted through the remainder of the Brooklyn redesign process and then be implemented with the Brooklyn implementation.
You got a lot of Brooklyn here, so you'll hear.
Yeah, and we want to. There's a lot of work to do in Brooklyn, the borough of my heart. But we also we didn't think it would be fair to customers to have a plan we were implementing and an academic exercise we were discussing in the summer of 2025. So the next Brooklyn report will come out sometime later this year after Queens has been fully implemented. And then we'll re-engage deeply on the discussion of what Brooklyn needs and what the final adjustments to those routes will look like.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you all so much. Sorry for not-
Have a great day. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
And we can send along this presentation.
Time.
Going
Go
back
to you,
to,
Lisa.
going back to the conversation about sending out a statement on the withdrawal, the USDOT, well, just about the USDOT. Statement we put out, in case you haven't seen it, was on the initial letter. Said we condemn in the strongest terms the USDOT's decision to withdraw their approval of congestion pricing. 6 weeks in, there's no question that congestion pricing is working. Drivers from around the region are seeing less traffic. Bus riders are seeing substantially faster trips. Riders are benefiting from much needed investment in our essential transit infrastructure. Recent polling found that more than 60% of CBD drivers approve of the program. Congestion pricing went through a years-long, extremely thorough environmental review process, and FHWA already found that no significant impacts would occur. Multiple judges have ruled in favor of the program's legality. We can't afford to reverse the transformative progress that New Yorkers are experiencing. We urge the USDOT to reinstate their approval of congestion pricing immediately. Otherwise, we'll see you back in court.
Okay.
I'd like to, hold on, Trudy, one sec. I'd like to point out that Kara wrote that, and I think it was extremely awesome, super strong, and we have continued to hammer that point home. And I'm not sure that a date is what, I don't think that we can be stronger than the governor has.
Okay, and exactly, we need to be as strong as the governor has been. And her latest statement specifically refers to the date and that they have now given a date and they say it's do or die. I think this letter, who did you say wrote this letter?
It was a press statement. It went out to
Oh,
all the
okay.
media.
Yeah, I
We
know,
spoke to
I
the
saw,
media.
believe me, I saw it, and I followed all of the press conferences because of my former life as a press secretary and all kinds of stuff, so I get into all of them. My suggestion, and I would like is that there has now been a new statement, and the strongest statement yet. And that was what the governor was responding to yesterday at the press conference and everything else, specifically giving an absolute date, the 21st, which we have never had before. I don't think there would be any harm, without repeating all the good that congestion pricing has done. And you know, I've been working on congestion pricing with Sam Schwartz, who I've discussed this with also for at least 10, since it came up, at least 10 years, you know, a long time. I don't think there would be any harm if we did, not a press release, if we just wrote a letter to, what's his name, who actually, the new, he comes from Westchester.
He has nothing to do with it, Molinaro. And it's
I'm not talking about look, okay, then we do it directly to, the transportation department, whoever we do.
no, I do not want them, I do not want to be on their radar, honestly.
No, we are on their radar, believe me. And if you don't want to sign it with your name, we don't have to sign anybody's name. We just do it on Transit Rider TRC.
Everybody here want their name in front of USDOT? No.
Oh, our name, believe me, our names are already in front of USDOT and whatever. Or else, whoever doesn't want to sign on to it, we can do it on plain white paper. It is important, I think, for us to, now that there has been the latest development, and that makes it, you know, set in concrete, the 21st. I don't see any harm for us to respond specifically to that.
Stuart, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I had some other questions about this, but just one point on this. So Gloria Shepherd's letter to, you know, to state DOT officials references, like Trudy's saying, the March 21st date.
Right.
It talks about, it calls this a pilot project.
It's a value pricing pilot program.
Right, but the way the letter's written, a pilot project, but I know, right, so, you know, in Andrew's speech and then I think in your commentary, you're saying like, there isn't a date that's been given with the courts are gonna.
Right.
Right, so I think if we're careful, maybe we should be commenting on Gloria's letter. And reiterating our prior position. Because the MTA has no intent on turning off the readers until the court. But I think, until the court rules, but I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms.
You've had your say, there are other people's.
In terms of going on,
No, Lisa,
meaning we reiterate our prior position. You know, what effect does this letter have?
It's like.
it couldn't hurt. No, that, I am not saying.
I'm sorry, Trudy, you've had your say, you've got to let other people. speak.
Lisa, I am sorry.
Karen, Christopher and then Karen. Thank you.
But are we taking questions on Andrew's thing or we're staying on this?
No, then I'd like to make a motion.
Because I had something about congestion.
Okay.
Pricing is going to continue. And we've experienced improved travel times. What are we telling the MTA about changing and rationalizing bus routes? You know what I'm saying? If we're touting that this is working, you know, we haven't adjusted the bus routes yet to frequencies.
That issue came up the other day and Frank said they will be recalibrating bus routes because they are making much better time.
So I think we need to be on record as supporting that sooner rather than later. And, you know, if there's specific routes that now where the traffic has improved greatly.
We don't have that. I will say that's in that level of detail in Manhattan, we don't have that.
If we're gonna write a letter, and detail the accomplishments of the program and all that it's done to date, that's a no-brainer.
And the MTA met with city fleet officials today, and they're still taking the position that business as usual until the courts.
Can I just make
But I
one,
don't disagree that we should be on record.
Can I
In
make-
some fashion, may not be a lot, you know, and then I think we should discuss that as continuing to support. However you want to call it, the pilot.
It's a value pricing pilot.
okay, Lisa, if I may, because.
Sorry, Trudy, Karen,
You called on Stuart without letting me finish. I am bringing this up only because there was a new development which we got from USDOT.
Right, but Trudy, you've raised that and we don't have a lot of time here. So and now it's up to Christopher, well, we are, but you're not letting anybody else discuss it.
No,
Christopher had wanted to discuss that and so did Karen.
Is it safe now?
Is it specific to this topic?
Yes, it is. And I'm trying to keep my jaw in place right now. One thing, if we do, and I say this word if, we need to add accessibility because accessibility is important because customers who are using accessibility, like Accessoride, who travels from Brooklyn to Manhattan or any of the boroughs, they need to see what things are accomplished. Like if I'm going from Brooklyn to the Bronx, going through Manhattan, they need to see how the on-time performance are. It's already been brought up to all the boroughs, seeing what good accomplished is. Thirdly, we have not heard any news media, well, let me rephrase that. 2 news medias have brought it up. News 11 was Marker and NJ Birkin have brought it up. All I'm asking is if we can put a small sentence making and saying how accessibility is working. I have gone out with the other, bugging out the officials, tell them, don't forget about accessibility.
Okay.
Thank you.
But let me just add,
Yes, sir.
the biggest boon to accessibility from congestion pricing is that another 126 stations will be done.
Okay, so thank you, Karen.
Andrew.
I would say that we should be careful about dates or saying the court, because what court? What court ruling?
Yeah, we don't know which court.
Exactly. I think we need to give ourselves flexibility because this could be going back and forth and not lock ourselves in there. So I don't know.
But the date is the March 21st date that USDOT has said things need to be
Right,
offered.
but that's not a court.
But that's not a court. date.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think that we should acknowledge anything.
Well, how about if we put something together and we can share it with you guys and as we share it always with our chairs and we can share it with y'all and see.
Because
what
sharing
you
is
think.
caring.
If it's to me,
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now back to Andrew's report. We've moved past, I also, in response to your report though, you had mentioned some of the cities that are looking at congestion pricing.
Yeah.
San Francisco is very far along in their quest to implement congestion pricing and has already gotten approval from the state to do that. An
Why are they
island
never
that's in
mentioned
the
in
bay.
the list of cities? I wonder then.
They are, and depends where you go. So, and there was, we had right, Kara and Brian met with the head of the, San Francisco, I don't know if it's part or San Francisco.
It's a county, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of, the organization that's, beginning to implement that. And, do you want to talk about that, guys?
They're specifically looking at implementing it to help fund housing developments on Treasure Island, which is right in the middle of the bay, just off the Bay Bridge.
They want to use those funds for housing?
Mhm. So essentially, they would put a congestion toll on the island itself to pay for new housing for the island. It's their scheme.
So it's nascent, but it's actually far along in a nascent way, right?
So they may be coming out to see how things are going here in the next couple of weeks.
In March, right?
Yeah.
Right around the.
I should check in with them actually, to see what their plan is. Yeah,
Very different.
yeah, it's a smaller thing, but it's an interesting project.
Conceptually, it touches the base that this isn't to pay for a road that they're not paying for. Right? Oh, no. There you go.
One of the things Andrew mentioned was ridership being up, right? Have they shared? So I haven't seen it. Have they gotten granular about where, you know?
They've done it by agency, you know, Metro North, Long Island, subways, but they haven't given by as granular as you're looking for.
I think we need to see that and ask for that. You know, where people switching from.
They did
It's on open data, right?
lend
Yeah.
that January is traditionally a lower ridership month than many other months due to holidays and what have you.
Cold weather.
But it's already picking up again.
So there's,
Yeah,
Maybe
so
I'm not, but
the MTA does have their open data portal that has that, and so that's something that we're also looking at tracking ourselves. It's just there's a bit of a lag in the data to be able to make major
conclusions about those more local routes, but that's definitely something.
So I think for our next meeting, it's not unreasonable to have some of the information for us.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
We can do that.
Good idea.
So that we can comment properly, whether it's the geographic areas of the city, whether it's the bus sector. These could be other incidental impacts from congestion pricing.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Karen?
We also talked about some of the other like economic indicators that we're seeing, like increase in Broadway shows or people going to restaurant again, like just to show like small business and different stuff.
So that's been, there were studies that have shown that as well. Broadway show performances are up. There've been, the Broadway League reported on some, it's Crane's documented that, but Ernst and Young, EY and the New York Partnership released some numbers. Crane's put something out that looked at Broadway show patronage increasing, about restaurants, about businesses in the zone increasing, including, here's a shock, increases in foot traffic. Yeah, because it's, if you've walked around there, it's much more pleasant and easy to get around without having to dodge cars and feel like you're playing Frogger for those of us who
And
are.
if you've come
old
in
enough
on
to-
public transportation, it's likely you're gonna be using your foot to get around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the MTA has ridership on open data. New Jersey Transit and PATH do not. And there is the coalition that we work closely with is writing a letter asking that they release that as good providers, good stewards of public dollars and information. So we'll see how that.
Oh, there was one other important fact. Since congestion pricing, leasing of office space has really skyrocketed too.
Yeah.
Very important
Yeah, there's.
and very in opposition to the people who are saying this is going to kill New York.
That's also back to work policy. Back to.
That too.
Yeah, we've heard from people who are in the construction business who thought they were going to hate congestion pricing, that they're actually able to get to more jobs in the same amount of time if they're small business, small repair people, than they had thought. So, there is, when we were at caucus, which is one of the items on the list of things for me to talk about, caucus was in Albany last weekend, the weekend before. It was cold, snowy. Nobody who wasn't there missed anything except some ice. Really cold and snowy, but there were some good conversations to be had. I spoke with somebody who's a commissioner at the Department of Agriculture for the state, and asked her what her thoughts were. And she said, I don't know, we'll talk in a few months when farmers markets come back. And said, well, I said, I'd love to talk to her about the opportunity for reimagining how some of the markets operate. I don't know anything about the logistical side of things, but I do see that if there are 4 farmers markets here, there are 4 giant trucks. And perhaps there's a better way to situate them in the summer by staging some of the, staging a smaller electric vehicle or something. I don't know if anybody's been in Midtown and seen some of the electric Amazon vehicle delivery. They have a fleet in downtown Brooklyn. That is, I think they've got 50 or something, but they're much more efficient and effective than having these giant trucks, and they're staging them in the zone as well. So
And they're a lot quieter.
they are a lot quieter and they spew less. There are ongoing conversations to discuss the mitigations that are part of the funding promises and commitments that the MDA has made that are continuing as well. So, that includes electric vehicles, electric trucks in Hunts Point, electric refrigeration trucks in Hunts Point, better ventilation system for schools and greenery. And New Jersey has no interest in talking about anything except in court. Our understanding is that court case has been paused. That's kind of pause that we can support, right? And there is no indication yet of the MTA seeking, support for an amicus brief, as of yet.
As of yet.
Right. For those of you who have not yet seen the capital tracker, Kara and team have worked to put together 24 and growing options for funding the MTA's capital plan for next year to fill the $35 billion hole. It's interactive. It's interactive.
That's great.
Yes, it's really fun. It's worth looking at. When we were in Albany a few weeks ago, we met with elected officials who said, wait, but I've got an idea too. And why don't you have mine here? I mean, literally stopping me going, but why isn't mine on here? And so we said, well, that's great. So there's $35 billion hole. Why don't we make 35 different options? So,
To $750 billion when bonded.
yeah.
Lisa, on what you're talking about now, not pushing the date thing anymore. We can talk about that. Well, you and I can discuss that, but.
That's been discussed and decided.
Okay, Brian, in his testimony on that, and you just mentioned it. First of all, you gave a really good presentation, and I usually don't compliment, but you know that. So, but you gave a really good presentation. And he talked about the different funding options. Take your pick, Albany. I got calls from a couple of people who said, how do I get a copy of this thing? And I said, I don't even have a copy of it.
It's on our website.
No, okay, we can, for those of us who don't, would like something like, and they took out, it was printed out, it was, a hard copy. I would ask, and if anybody else wants, and I'd be happy to, when these things are put out, we should put out a couple of hard copies. If you'll notice, when the governor had, at the press conference, she had the book, that they had put out, and she did it, she had the hard copy.
That was for the president's comprehension.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just for the president's comprehension. He doesn't like to do anything.
He likes pictures. though.
No, he doesn't. Okay, anyway, well, I like pictures too. Maybe that's the only way that I agree.
Okay, we'll print some out, but again, it's a living, breathing document that is ongoing and interactive. So it loses something in translation, but we can print out some copies of the chart.
If you could, okay, I'll come by.
Okay.
later.
Christopher.
Also, because I didn't get to, I know we're doing Andrew's report. I had some questions on his report.
Okay.
Yes. I was
Sure.
No. Thank you for making me laugh right now. And by the way, the Omni vending machines, Andrew, and I know Kate's listening because I did CC you both, guys. We definitely need to keep an eye on the Omni vending machines because I'm seeing they're adding more. But we do have a serious issue going on. When everyone gets a reduced fare letter, it doesn't matter what language it's in. They're still not reading the letter or know how to energize the card.
Yep,
I know
And
that.
just today, as I'm heading here, one person broke the machine in front of me with transit officers. The officers handle it. I just said, moving on.
Maybe he recognized you.
No, I'm not going that direction. But when I say move on, that means it's the officers are handling it, that's their job. Second thing is to answer your question.
Wait, hold on. So, yes, that is true. I've gotten texts and emails and letters and phone calls from friends who say, now what do I do? Well, how do I transfer my money? And I tell them, and then they say, oh, I forgot to turn the letter over. So perhaps
I'm sorry.
there should be something on the bottom of the letter that says, turn over. It's silly, but sometimes that's the most effective way to get people to do things.
No, and you're correct what you're saying, Lisa, because I brought this up to Q. And he actually said, and I did that as like, you and I just did something like we used to do, and Edith went. But we just need a little laugh there, but
You wrap up.
I got stopped, so let me get to my words. Officers, now, it would be nice if you told me that when we started it, because I did see them when I was coming back from Albany on the reroute D train when they're doing the fast track. They were in the conductor's position, but what they do is they don't use precinct, they mix them up. So say one officer comes from transit, one officer comes from the house precinct.
Yeah.
So it's really has to say is it's nice to see them on the train. It's nice to see them at platforms, but we just, if you want us to do that, I have no problem, but it's very hard to do the batches because they might get suspicious. We have to be very cautious.
But just see if they're strolling around from car to car. That's all
Well, the answer would be yes, and the train car number, I do remember because it's 2896, because that's on the deed, a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
We have a couple of raised hands there. Deborah Greif.
And Deborah, we haven't called on you because first we're calling on members and then we're calling on.
Excuse me, Lisa.
I didn't know.
You're acting like I don't understand that, but the point is that I can voice my complaint in that way. You called on members, my hand has been up for more than 15 minutes, and it's not fair. If you want to fix this, then set up a public session. Let me finish. Set up a public session of when we can only speak, and I'll be fine with that. Because
After the member
that'll make
speak
sure
is
there's
when the
no
public
issue.
session is.
Fine.
Okay, please go ahead.
Lisa, I have my
Deborah,
hand-
please go ahead. Deborah, please go ahead and
Thank you.
tell us what's on your mind. Thank you.
What's on my thing, in my part of Brooklyn, which I put in the chat, but they do not understand what congestion pricing is. And when I finally explained to many of them, because I asked them, how do you like going on the roads when you have to go into the Battery Tunnel? Yes, I know it's called the Ucari now, or the Queens Midtown, or any of those bridges that are paid by, under the MTA. And they've all come out, well, the Verrazano's horrible.
I know.
And I
Right
said,
now,
well,
she's
yes, it has to go, that money also goes for that. It's not only just buses, trains, it's also to keep the upkeep and the health of the MTA bridges as well as the tunnels. And who said I was correct was Jamie Torres Springer. He said I was actually correct because a lot of the drivers don't want to understand. It's not just the buses and trains, it's also the bridges have to be constantly maintained and fixed. And you can't take a chance of them not to be, because in the past, there was an issue with the Williamsburg Bridge, Manhattan Bridge. And trust me, it can happen to the other bridges too. He did tell us at Brooklyn, the Verrazano Bridge things could happen if they don't have the funds to properly maintain it. So we need to educate the public for that too, because sitting on accessory on a messed up road on a bridge is very uncomfortable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Deborah, Kathy Sheridan, the head of Bridges and Tunnels, made a point of illustrating as soon as congestion pricing started, how much important work would be done on the Verrazano Bridge.
I understand that, but it hasn't gotten to my end of the world. They don't want, they're very thick-brained and
Fantasy world.
thick-minded.
Let's just use
It
the word
really,
fantasy.
trust
Let's go.
me.
That's a shame.
That's why I'm bringing this up. Okay, thank you.
In terms of my report, Brian Karajak, do you want to add anything?
That's a new name,
Jess?
Brian
Brian
Karajak.
Karajak, Jess, why don't we introduce our other new member?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, you're the young one.
Got you. Andrew Bennett, in the cycle world, I'm the CEO and founder of Good Cool Bike Club. We're a cycle-based organization based in Brooklyn.
Andrew is our bike pet member. Yeah, which legislation was changed a couple of years ago that include a bike pet member. And Andrew is recommended by the mayor. And we have gotten four new members this year, right? Or in the last. Yeah.
Doing better than the other councils.
We sure are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're thrilled to have you. Welcome. Okay, Mr. X, you have your hand raised. Is this, before you begin, looking at the questions you have included, they seem like a mixture of old business and new business. Is that correct?
I just fell.
Unmute, please. Stepped away.
Okay, then why don't we start with going to some old business? Oh, there you go.
Oh, now
Okay.
he's here. Okay.
You didn't get off.
Are you with me now?
Yes.
It's in the chat.
Before the previous meeting ended on 1:30, I raised my hand to mention old and business or new business issues. And the chair, apparently the chair forgot. I raised my hand and just forgot about me, just omitted me. And this is the first time this happened. I raised my hand, I expect you to give me a chance to speak every time I raise my hand.
It is based on the amount of time we have available and the amount of, and it's members first, then it's the public, and it's based on time. You were not singled out. As Deborah pointed out, it took her 15 minutes with her hand raised. Nobody's being singled out. It's a very busy meeting. And we wanted to be sure that the members were able to participate through a lot of questions and dialogue. So if you have a question or something else that you'd like to raise, please do.
My question is, how can the MTA head that manage the night guard? What did he do to oversee it? Besides spending 2 trains below Jackson Avenue, which I find very disturbing. What did he do to reshape it besides spending 2 trains below Jackson Avenue? What did he do to shape it besides forcing me to walk to Jacoby House and 1 extra Control Avenue?
We missed the first part of your question. What can we do to reshape what?
What can the MTA head do to reshape the MTA besides suspended 2 train below Jackson Avenue, which is a death trap? What can he do to reshape the MTA, which has the money thrown away, besides forcing me to walk to Jacoby Hospital from 180 and Control Avenue, which he did several months ago.
I think.
So.
Mr. X, are you referring, Mr. X, you referring to a service disruption?
I'm referring to that, yeah, I'm referring to him spending 2 trips below Jackson, which is a death trap. But I'm also referring to him forcing me to walk to Jacoby House from 180 Control Avenue, which I previously mentioned. I definitely don't appreciate that. Doesn't matter if I'm able to walk, if I'm able to take that walk, doesn't walk in one way or round trip. Forcing me to walk to Jacoby House from 180 Control Avenue is a slap in the face.
Isn't there a bus that goes, don't they have a shuttle bus that, I'm sorry, whoever's crinkling, can you please stop? Isn't there a shuttle bus that runs along from the end of the, from where the work starts to the end of the route?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. The 2 train below Jackson is a death trap. Doesn't matter if you have a shuttle bus. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, I have no subway service for the rest of the month and into the next month.
Yeah.
So I feel your pain. I hate it, but it's what we have to do to keep the system going and in a state of good repair.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of repairs up there, Mr. X.
But also, as I said before, regarding the last 2 permanent producer methods I received, both of them were stuck in SPS fair boxing. I was able to retrieve 1. As a result, I had to walk to Jacoby House from 180 Katona Avenue, leave the Tremont at Katona, I had to walk to 434 Washington Avenue between Brooklyn, Bergen Avenue. Another case, I had to walk to 367 Southern Boulevard, I want West Earth Street. Where's the logic to that? Do you tell me I need to do that or spend more money? I don't think so.
We hear you.
One spends the other.
No, we thank
You
you.
force me to spend more money, that's bad. You force me to take long walks, that's just as bad.
We hear you.
Did you have another question?
I like to see the MTA head take those long walks I took.
Okay.
And see how
Okay, do you have another question? Or we're gonna move on to, Chris has his hand raised.
Yeah, for new business?
Pretty much, just keeping it out there, putting it out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Well, it's actually.
We're gonna move to new.
Chris and then Stuart. Oh, wait, Stuart has.
Go ahead, Stuart. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go.
So at the last meeting, I had mentioned issues with the functionality of reporting your subway car. They've remapped the app, it's working fine now.
Awesome.
So the posters are back.
The posters are back with a number to text and everything.
Yeah,
Good.
it's working.
Excellent.
Like a charm. Now, what they're doing with the data, that's our next question for the business.
But let me just tell you,
What they're bleeding from now is really, is working, so.
you know what else is new and wonderful? On the new electronic screens, they now have much more accurate and better readable countdown clocks. I don't know how many of you have noticed that, but it is so much better on the
whole world knows.
on those electronic screens now, instead of the things that hang down from the ceiling. Yeah, like that. They're really good.
Except for the advertisements that are on there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I know, I see it.
Rural business, again, we still see a variation in how certain stations are being cleaned. Happened to be in your neck of the woods, very funeral. The stations were immaculate along the the park corridor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of work on the Broadway
We really
one.
get to the upper west side, but they were, but again, stations like east side, yeah, we got west side. The Broadway, Lafayette was filthy. West Fourth Street was immaculate. I mean, there seems to be.
Yeah.
This was this.
Yeah, I would have expected the
There was
reverse.
this past week, no, we've put pressure on Chambers, Fulton Street is.
Much better.
Learning, right, so.
Oh, yes.
Again, I still ask, even though it's old, but let's see that schedule, what's the rationale for frequency
And Broadway Lafayette was the bad one, right? Okay,
and especially with the connection with the
six.
IRT, yeah.
Okay,
I have an old business.
go ahead.
Okay, you know that the buses have been better in terms of curbing the buses, but for people in wheelchairs or people who can't, get from the bus to the sidewalk, whatever. I now just ask the bus drivers when I can, would you please curb the bus? But at the last board meeting, somebody brought up the fact that for people, for seniors, for people with disabilities or whatever, that it's getting more and more difficult as more people are taking the buses, that they don't care about the signs in the seats in front that say, will you please, and this person, I don't know who he was or whatever, but that as we make signs that say, and rather than saying, please, people don't respond to please. A lot of people don't. But if you make something as a statement, these seats are reserved, or these seats are for people with disabilities and for the elderly, or however you want to word it. And that has to do with the curbing the bus, doing things for seniors, and especially as more and more seniors, at least, not just me, but I mean, people in my age group have really brought this up over and over again because they have to walk, or if they see me on a bus and they'll say, could you tell these people to get out of our seats? So,
Please sounds a little too optional. I get it.
That's my
Yeah.
brain. I know.
and so just in terms of, and these are paper signs, most of them. So if we can suggest it or do something for, and it's not only for, but it's also for people with disabilities, Chris, and
No, I know.
anybody else
Yeah.
who need those front seats in the buses.
Thank you. We got it.
Kalia had old business, right? Your Metro card? About the Omni.
That's new business.
That's new business.
We're ready.
You ready?
Let her go first.
I actually have two questions. Okay, for the first one is,
Mine too.
I notice, you guys now have teenagers. And this.
Good eye movement there.
They are complaining about not receiving them and the material that they are not
These
lasting.
student omni cards?
The student omni cards are not lasting. The CUNY cards are plastic, the hard plastic like we kind of have. Why didn't transit? We brought this up before the student omni.
Can you
cards
tell me
came out.
what material you think they are made of?
Cardboard.
Cardboard.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And you're talking about kids.
That's not gonna last.
It's a few things about the student omni cards. One, it's supposed to last that one card the entire year. we're talking about kids. Okay, that's a problem, you know? So I know the kids went like about 6 months this term around without their student Omni cards, and they just got them about 3 weeks ago. So then you're gonna have a problem with fare evasion, you're gonna have a problem with the police and the students. We don't want that problem.
Plus, if they're just made of cardboard and you have them in a pocket, they can be bent and break.
Bent,
Melt.
break,
Washed.
washed,
Smells.
smells.
With the same material we're using for the single ride.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
It could be.
Which
We'll
Yeah.
find out.
That was,
We'll find out. If it's meant to last a year, that ain't gonna last a year.
it's not gonna last a year.
And that was
No.
supposed to be the same.
It's like gift cards.
Yeah,
Gift cards are more like
Did you
our
have
cards.
another one?
it escaped me. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, let me know when it comes back.
Any other new bit?
I have new business.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sharing this because this is from MTA Accessibility, who could not pass this around. And so I'm gonna say this, as yesterday I did it as being on active community outreach officer. We are asking everyone, and this was already emailed, and it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now it's in hard paper, because I know Trudy has it. So making sure, because they told me to make sure I paste it on you. Please, everyone, please make sure you please do the survey, because I know Sharon, you want to make sure 59th Street is on that category. But I'm just gonna remind you, you can do it not just once, you can do it so many times, because they already quote me already. I did it 20 times already, so it's noted. But I did give a copy to Brian at the PCAC office so he can share it on newsletter. But we're reminding, it's double-sided, so I'm just making sure I'm doing this. Yeah, yeah, you hold mine.
No, for the people down.
No, they have it already.
Yeah, everyone got
They
one.
have it already. Those two have them already. They know where to find me. They were there last night. I mean, Andrew was, sorry. But thank you, Karen. But I'm just, we're asking everyone, because it is part of the capital, please put your ideas. Now, there is one that Lisa's gonna love me a second.
And me too.
And Jason and Andrew and some people who were there too. They mentioned one station, Lisa's favorite station. That's Willis Point.
Boy, it's the most, it's a critically important station.
Yes.
Because of its proximity to so many things that are vital to the economy of that part of Queens.
And I'm
My
gonna,
favorite station has no elevator either, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon.
no, we did,
Oh, we're gonna put it in.
we'll put it in.
I'm really surprised
Yeah.
on the facts of this. It talks about new CBTC installation, that it doesn't mention the BDF&M along Sixth Avenue, which is also part of that program.
That's not my idea. That was just capital.
Isn't that during
Andrew?
this current?
It's supposed to be, but
Yeah.
it
During
hasn't
this
happened
Current
yet.
plan, and this is during the next plan.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's just want everyone to share on this also. Also, in the MTA accessibility, Andrew, as you mentioned, the pilot that's going on. It is, I have been going out with MTA accessibility and other ACT members have been going around testing out how is it working at the Long Island Cares, Metro North Cares, and we have tested them and it's been working perfectly on the phone. And I can tell you, it's been really helpful, and we just need everyone to please put your opinions on it as well. Q has asked,
Put our opinions on it?
whatever way you want to put it, it's
Okay.
right now my jaw's a little sore, so please forgive me your words today. And thank you for backing me up. No, seriously, thank you.
Loosen your jaw.
I plead the fifth right now. I can't discuss it because we're on record.
Okay.
But let me just focus. What I'm saying is, I think you're making me laugh right now. I need that laugh.
We all do.
Yes, the main focus is we just need everyone to please pass this along, share the information. It doesn't matter, you don't have to do it once, you can do it so many times until you blow it up. I already know, because I already blew it up once. I'm guilty. And Caitlin, you know you have to be guilty as charged.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on, we have, Kalia, then Stuart, Kalia remembered her question.
Oh.
My question is, about fares. Where are we with HRA and the shelters? Are we, posting? Are we, advertising? Where are we?
I'm told that they are doing that.
To those neighborhoods.
Kara has.
So we have, we're in regular contact with the speaker's office of the city council, and then our other partners in advocacy like Riders Alliance and CSS. We have a regular call with them, and we are close to scheduling a meeting with just the staff at those agencies about those exact questions and improving communication between just outreach about like, you know, how they increase eligibility, what are they going to reach out to those people who may not know that they're newly eligible. But that is definitely on our radar. I think that they're doing some advertising and outreach, but it has been a big criticism of ours and many other people.
And we've been trying to get this meeting for a long time. I would just add, it's been an ongoing process.
Really serious issue.
Yeah.
For low income communities, we really need to address.
Totally agree. I will add that, you know, the MTA's done a much better job through Shanifa's office of working hand in hand with them than they have in the past. And there have, over the last 6 months or so, there have been about 45,000 new enrollees in the program, which is a good step in the right direction, although it's still well below the number of people who are actually eligible for the program. So there's still a lot of work left to do.
But a big step happened yesterday with Fairfare's eligible riders can now get their cards as Omni cards. And which is good. That means they can add money electronically rather than having to go to a station. Not everybody lives near a station.
Right.
So and fare capping, right, which is great.
You can now take advantage of fare cap
Now we just have to get it on the railroads.
and get it up to 200% of the.
Thank you. Yeah, and right, but the more people sign up for fair fares, the more of an impetus there's going to be to increase the federal poverty level. Because the argument is, well, nobody's signing up for it now. Why should we increase it?
Because we're not going into the neighborhood.
That's what I'm. Jess, you had? No. Oh, I thought you wanted.
Stuart was.
Okay.
The business, the accuracy of announcements.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't just a casual thing. So like on the weekend, I was on a
talking about.
R160 train, running along the west side, and it was saying that the train would skip stops. And it made those stops.
What line?
The C line. And then, okay, thought maybe just they didn't attend to it or something like that. Happened this week on the F train, you know, my regular train. It's displayed as an express, you know, the 731 I've been to, and it ran as a local. It wasn't isolated. It seems to be happening that certain trains along that line. I don't know if it's related to the equipment or.
There's the issue you raised, and then there's the issue of conductors not making the proper announcements. And I've been arguing for years for scripts, and I'm told they all have scripts, but they're not using them. This weekend, when there was no 7 service in Manhattan, on several trains I rode, when we got to 42nd Street, they announced the transfer to the 7. Not mentioning the W was running and that there was no 7 service. When I rode the 2 and the 3 down to Fulton Street, they announced the transfer to the 4 and 5, which was ending at Brooklyn Bridge this weekend. There's a lot of poor announcements and I'm making a lot of noise about it.
So those announcements, were they made by people or were they made electronically?
Automatic.
Electronic visual displays as well.
Sometimes the conductors, just from fire, there are 6 or 7 options selected. So you select the quick one, the first one, it could have been an error, you're running local, but it shows express.
And that's what I thought.
But they should have overridden and made an announcement, manual
Then
announcement.
someone had a something similar to what Andrew's raising now because of the trains that would normally be displayed at their 42nd, you know.
Uptown 8th Avenue.
Downtown.
Oh, okay, because the Uptown, we're skipping Spring, 23rd and 50th on the C.
Maybe they didn't know.
So maybe.
Yes.
Sometimes what they do is they put an express, so that you'll know that, they put an express like train service map up and a signage up, and then at 59th Street, I've seen them change it back to the local when they resume
Yes.
regular local service.
Okay, and that brings us to 2:00. And our next PCAC meeting will be next Thursday. And Sean Fitzpatrick will come and speak to us about about instruction innovation. And we've seen the presentation, it's really cool.
Yeah,
So
we've
please
seen
join
some of
us.
that at Capital Program Committee and
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Thank you very much. We will get to you share with you a statement. And a newsletter. A newsletter. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Do I have it? I think I have it. Okay, I have it in my office.